Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Gary Common Council meeting, September the 4th, 2018, within the 6 p.m. hour. I will ask everyone that can and will stand for the prayer and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Moore will lead us in our prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, we give thanks to you. You have blessed us so much. As we think of the grace and goodness that you have sent our way, we are humble in thanksgiving. We express our gratitude to you, O Lord, not only in words, but through our deeds as we strive to do those things that are pleasing in your sight. We realize that sometimes the demands of the world cause us to rush through the day without giving recognition to the Almighty God who watches over us every moment of the day. Forgive us in our slackness of giving you due praise and honor. As we strive for the greatness of this city, help us to be compassionate and understanding toward our fellow citizens. Lead us in righteousness too, that we know that you will bless the righteous. We trust, O God, that we must not forget to appeal to you for wisdom from on high. Divine wisdom will get the job done. We ask your blessings upon all under the sound of my voice. We ask a special blessing for heavenly comfort and peace upon President Brewer and his family in the loss of his grandfather. In the mighty and gracious name of Jesus Christ our Lord, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Moore, for the prayer. We know it's a little warm in here, so we're going to try and move this meeting as quick as we can. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown.
Present.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Here.
Councilwoman Hatcher.
Here.
Councilman Proto. Councilwoman Rogers.
Present.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade.
Here.
Councilwoman Wyatt.
Yes.
And
Here.
President Brewer.
Here.
Mr. President, there are 8 present, 1 absent.
With 8 present, 1 absent, we do have a quorum to conduct the business of the City of Gary. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting?
Mr. President, I make a motion that the minutes from our previous meeting be adopted.
There's a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Smith. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers.
Yes.
Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade.
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt.
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
The vote of 8-0. The minutes from the previous meeting has been adopted and so ordered. Council pending ordinance and resolution on first reading.
CPO 2018-36, an ordinance approving the building corporation determining need, authorizing execution of lease, authorizing the sale of certain real estate, and approving the issuance of bonds and related matters. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Flynn Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2018-37, additional appropriation ordinance. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Flynn Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2018-38, an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying expenses of the Gary Public Transportation Corporation of the City of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019, including all outstanding claims and obligations and fixing a time the same shall take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Flynn Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller Darrell Lampkin, Executive Director of Gary Public Transportation.
Finance.
CPO 2018-39, ordinance approving salary and operating budgets for the City of Gary's Community Development Block Grant Program, Program Year 2018, Emergency Solutions Grant Program Program Year 2018, Home Program, Program Year 2018, and approving budgets for the foreclosure and NSP programs. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller, Community Development Division, Department of Commerce.
Finance.
CPO 2018-40, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petition Transport Properties, LLC, Lee Companies, 563 Lake Street, Gary, Indiana, property at 1500 to 1558 Colfax, 1576 to 1594 Colfax Street, 1500 to 1595 Wheeler Street, 1500 to 1595 Stevenson Street, 1501 to 1595 Hobart Street, Gary, Indiana.
Planning.
CPO 2018-41, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Uses, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petition Transport Properties, LLCs, care of Lee Companies, 563 Lake Street, Gary, Indiana. Property 1500 to 1558 Colfax, 1576 to 1594 Colfax, 1500 to 1595 Wheeler Street, 1500 to 1595 Stevenson Street, 1501 to 1595 Hobart Street, Gary, Indiana.
Planning.
CPO 2018-42, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Uses, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petition Transport Properties, LLC, care of Lee Companies, 563 Lake Street, Gary, Indiana. Properties unapproved Hobart Street and Stevenson Street between 15th Avenue and 17th Avenue. Unimproved 17th Avenue between Hobart and Colfax Streets, alleys 64, 65, and 66 between 15th and 17th Avenue.
Planning.
CPO 2018-43, an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying expenses of the Gary-Chicago International Airport tax-based funds of the City of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fixing the time the same shall take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller, Dwayne Hayden, Gary Chicago Airport Director.
Finance.
CPO 2018-44, an ordinance approving salaries for employees of the City of Gary, Chicago International Airport Authority for the calendar year 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller, Dwayne Hayden, Gary Chicago International Airport.
Finance.
Mr. President, is assignment of pending ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brown.
Finance Committee has before it CPO 2018-36. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2018-36 for reporting out to the council.
Councilwoman Brown, let me interrupt 1 minute. Let me acknowledge that Councilman Proto has joined us at this time.
I'm sorry.
I want to acknowledge Councilman Proto has joined us also.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank
You may proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. CPO 2000, I'm sorry. The Finance Committee has before CPO 2018-37. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2018-37 for reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has before it CPO 2018-38. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2018-38 for reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has before it CPO 2018-39. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2018-39 for reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has before it CPO 2018-43. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2018-43 for reporting out to the council. Finance Committee has before it CPO 2018-44. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
and Councilman Smith.
Yes.
Mr. President, a majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2018-44 for reporting out to the council.
Mr. President,
Councilman Smith.
the Planning Committee has before it CPO 2018-40. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Rogers,
Yes.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. President, the Planning Committee has before it CPO 2018-41. For the record, I approve this ordinance for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Rogers,
Yes.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. President. Okay, Mr. President. The Planning Committee has before it CPO 2018-42. For the record, the Planning Committee reports out to the council. Councilwoman Rogers,
Yes.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. President, the majority of the committee has approved ordinance CPO 2018-40, CPO 2018-41, and CPO 2018-42.
Mr. President, Finance Committee would like to report out CPO 2018-36, 1837, 1838, 1839, 1843, and 1844.
Thank you. At this time, before we go into special and select, I have Ms. Love that's here from the Etna Manor Revitalization out in our Etna area. I would ask if she would come. She has a presentation that she would deliver at this time.
Thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity to allow us to share this evening. I'm not exactly quite sure what the appropriate attire or speech is, but I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for allowing us to host what we call the Fall Family Fun Fest in memory of Corporal Charles Turner of the Gary Police Department. We started this fest about 3 years ago, and Corporal Turner was very instrumental in helping us launch a very successful event. And as we continued to have this event or to plan for this event, we named it in his honor. As many of you probably already know, he's deceased as of March 2017. If any of you would like, I have a flyer here. I wasn't going to belabor the details regarding this fest, but we have several performers and vendors and other activities. This is really geared toward the family, and we're going to kind of focus in on, it may seem like multiple things, but focusing in on the family of The Incredibles, the cartoon series. And so children or adults even, if you like, you can come and wear your little mask or wear your costume. But we really want to capitalize and really focus on the family because we're building an infrastructure, or we're attempting to rebuild an infrastructure in our social society within the Etna Manor and Indian Hills community. So we really would greatly appreciate your attendance and your support for this matter. You guys have been really wonderful, and we appreciate all the cooperation up to this point.
Yes. Can you just tell us exactly what will take place this Saturday and give us the time of the event and the location also?
Yes, sir, I'll do all that. It's this Saturday, September 8th, from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. It's located in downtown Etna, which I'm coming to find out a lot of people don't know where downtown Etna is. But it's actually located between 9th Avenue and 12th Avenue on Etna Street. So that's like a half mile east of I-65 on routes 12 and 20, right at Etna Street. So you know Utah is right there at the light, and the very next light coming east, the very next street coming east is Etna. And so what we're actually doing is we'll have relay race, the little egg thing race, you know, kids like the old Bozo Circus game, tug of war, of course the traditional bouncy house, There'll be barbecue and nachos and Mexican corn and all the other little carnival kind of things. Couldn't find anybody with elephant ears, so don't be disappointed. Please don't stay away for that reason. So come anyway. So I don't have elephant ears or roasted corn, but if you know somebody, we'll take them. But in the meantime, we also have live music, so one of our local DJs will provide live music. He's also a saxophonist, and we've got a hip-hop gospel group coming, and I've tried to get in touch with this young little guy. I don't know his name, actually, but he's a James Brown performer in the area. He does an impersonation, but today they don't call them impersonations. They're tribute artists, forgive me. But I'm hoping he'll respond. And we've got the free throw contest. All of you, or some of you would have heard of this, Mo Bowling. This is our little thing we're hoping to patent. So it's coming directly through AMRP. So I had this idea about what we could do for a fundraiser, and it's actually mobile bowling alleys. So you get to come out and you get to bowl right there on site in downtown Etna. Any other questions?
Is there any questions by any council members?
Pretty cool.
Let me just,
No.
is there any questions?
No.
Okay. Well, let me just thank you, Ms. Love, for what you have done and what you continue to do for our community. And you're doing a great job in the program that you're pushing forward in the Etna area. Inspiring individual that bringing people together as residents and inspiring them to put back, as we so much call community, back into the neighborhood and where it's much needed. So I will be there to support. Me and the mayor had first hands on the Mo Bowling, and we had a great time bowling early in the morning there. But it definitely is a nice, we look forward to being a very nice event. And we happy to have you there at the church on yesterday where you talked about it. Quite a few people have planned to be there with you also, too.
Thank you so much.
So we look
Thank you
forward
all.
to it.
Appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Mayor?
with the President's permission, I just wanted to
Push that
add,
button. Yeah, you gotta hold it.
with the
Okay, there you go.
I just wanted to add my congratulations to the Adna Manor Revitalization area on this event. I know that Ms. Love and her entire group works tirelessly, not only to, as you said, Mr. President, bring community back to the Adna area, but also to look at opportunities for economic development. So I'm excited about that. You know, maybe we'll have a rematch on that Mo Bowling, but it's a really great concept, and it's a great fundraiser, too. So I just wanted to just add my voice to that.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you all.
Thank you. At this time, special and select any council members.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Caldwell?
please join the 5th District for their community forum Monday, September the 10th, 5:30 to 7 at Roosevelt Pavilion, 2145 Harrison Street, Gary, Indiana. Our special guests will be members from various programs throughout the city. They'll be displaying and giving you an overview of what services they provide for citizens. So we look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
Councilwoman Brown?
Mr. President, the 3rd District Community Organization, our meeting will also be Monday, September 16th at 5:30 at Towson Pavilion, 5:30 p.m. And I am not positive on our guests because my assistant, Ms. Lane, is out of the office this week, and I'm not sure who she got a commitment from. So, but just come to our meeting. We have a good meeting. Just come to the meeting, and I'm sure there will be someone there that will be of interest, and we'll have our meeting on that day. And I, too, want to extend my condolences to you, Mr. President, on the loss of your grandfather. Mr. Brewer was a stalwart in the community. I used to take my car to the car wash there, and back in the day, way back in the day, when I was a member of the Claymate organization, he would loan his place to us for us to have our meetings in the basement there. And I can remember all the jazz music that he would have upstairs. So he just just go way back with your grandfather. So he was a a very big contributor to this community. And so I just wanted to send my condolences to your entire family.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Wade?
I too would like to express my condolences to your family.
Thank you.
Mr. Brewer, we've heard a whole lot about him, and I didn't know him personally, but it sounds like he was a great fellow for the city of Gary. I also would like to express my condolences to the family of Fairfax Green. He was a CPS worker, Department of Child Services worker that I worked with for many, many years. Not only were we co-workers, but I ended up being his division manager. And, you know, guys, sometimes employees, you want to have the best employee, and you want them to have great attitudes and come to work, you know, with positive feeling. This particular fella always had a positive attitude and never had a negative word to say about anybody. And the children in this community will miss Mr. Fairfax Green. He was a wonderful person and a wonderful employee, a wonderful father, and a wonderful husband, and he will be sadly missed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Wyatt, I'm sorry.
I want to send my condolences to the family of Jordan Bonner. His funeral was held this last Friday, and he was a pillar in our church, Marquette Park United Methodist Church, and also he was a longtime school teacher, so I know that he touched many lives. Just a really amazing man. I also wanted to say that the Celebration of Hope that we had at the Glen Theater on September 1st, it was an ecumenical praise and worship service of hope for the city of Gary. Went off very well. We were really delighted to have praise dancers and a song. It was just a really wonderful event. And finally, the 1st District Community Meeting will be the 4th Monday of September, which will be September 24th. That will be at 6 p.m. at Marquette Park Pavilion. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Councilman Proto.
First, I would like to thank everybody that showed up for the 2nd District Community Picnic. It was really a great day in the park, and we had 44 people, businesses that contributed to the park activity, and I will acknowledge each one of them at a later date. There will be a community meeting held at the Ambridge Mass Center on the 19th, which I believe is a Thursday. And I think this project will be concerning about the 4th and Buchanan Street, 3rd Buchanan Street project that will take place with the Green, with Rachel Caesar is the one that's sponsoring this meeting and concerning that project. I do like to give my condolences to Councilman Brewer. The last time I talked to his grandfather, and it was strange, he called me. And I say, and he said, "This is Mr. Brewer." I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "What did I do wrong?" He said, "You know, yesterday was my birthday." I said, "Okay." Happy belated birthday. He was really a good guy. When I used to take my great nieces by there, he would be sitting at the daycare, and he always had some good words of wisdom to share. And so I know he truly will be missed. And I did have one other thing, but I can't remember it right now. But thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Rogers.
thank you. The Trinity United Church of Christ, Gary, presents their annual revival September 5th, 6th, and 7th at 7 p.m. nightly at Trinity United Church of Christ, 1276 West 20th Avenue in Gary. Guest evangelist, Reverend Dr. Marcus D. Cosby, Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church in Houston, Texas. If you have any questions, you may call Trinity United Church of Christ at 944-0500. The next 4th District Community Meeting will be held on September 17th from 5:30 to 7:30. That will be the 5x5x5 cleanup meeting. On that date, it will be held at James Reed Park, 15th and Pennsylvania Street. At this time, I don't have the location of the 5x5x5, but at the next meeting, I'll have additional information, where and the date that it will start. But for now, the meeting regarding the cleanup would be September 17th at James Reed Park Pavilion. Mr. President, I also had a community meeting regarding the Little Calumet River Basin Organization. And before I give my report on that, I just want to say that we enjoyed the Art House. It was the first time that the 4th District sponsored a meeting there, and they have a lot of different programs at the Art House, the social kitchen. And just want to let residents know, every Tuesday from 11:30 to 2:30, you can purchase dinners for $10, and that includes dessert as well. And so if you have not been inside the Art House, it's a beautiful facility with some great programs, and please come by on Tuesdays to purchase your dinner for $10. I was not aware that Mr. Castellanos was going to be here tonight, but I had the opportunity to to go on a tour with Mr. Castellanos as well, and he is the appointee for the Lake County Board of Commissioners for Lake County. Our Gary representative is Mr. Levon Whitaker. There was death in the family. He wasn't able to attend the tour or the meeting, but just wanted to let residents know that a lot of things is happening as it relates to the Little Calumet River, what they are doing along the river in different cities. In towns. I went to Deep River in Lake Station, where they're going to be building a levee will be built and a constructed pedestrian bridge. They were fishing there. Also went to Martin Luther King Drive, where they fish as well, and spoke with some residents there that were fishing. Pretty much drove the levee, the Marshalltown levee as well. And went to Chase Street. There will be a pedestrian bridge built there. Clark Road, we were able to see the Eagle's Nest, and a lot of different exotic plants and animals. And so it was a really good experience, and I want to thank both Mr. Castellanos and also Mr. Repay for actually taking the time to take me around and explain everything that was going on. And we spent probably a half a day out there. And so for the community meeting, that meeting was called due to residents in the Marshalltown area having some concerns about their community. And so we talked about a few solutions at the meeting. One of the problems is at the end of Wisconsin Street, the culverts down there. The children were going there and they were playing, and parents and everyone that found out about it was very concerned about the safety of children. So they are going to be putting up a fence around the culvert at the end of that street in Marshalltown. Also, they talked about, I noticed when I went to this tour that many of the levees were, they were paved. Many of the residents, they use it for biking, they use it for walking, they use it as a result of holidays, and if they want to put together an event for the community, they do that as well. There was talk of maybe a dam being constructed near Central Avenue in Marshalltown. There were concerns about flood insurance for residents in the city, North Gleason Park flood, Martin Luther King flooding, Georgia Street flooding. There was a suggestion about dredging that the problem is with all of the growth in the southern part of the county, what used to be trees and ground and grass is now businesses and houses, and so we're running out of soil. We're running out of land that would be able to soak up those waters, and so that's an issue, a long-time issue that needs to be taken care of. And just want to thank the committeemen that came out, the residents that came out from Marshalltown and throughout the city. Actually, there were elected officials, school board members. It was a really good meeting, and in fact, Mr. Castellanos and I will be having a tour this week with one of the residents in the Marshalltown community who want to take us to some places that we did not see. For example, behind Bethune School, there's some issues there. And so many of these issues are long-term issues. Some of them can be taken care of immediately, but there's a lot of work that we need to, and a lot of dialogue that we need to continue to have with the Little Calumet River Basin. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilman
Correct
President.
that meeting that will be held at Danbridge Center September the 19th at 5:30 is a Wednesday and not a Thursday. And the other thing I failed to say is that Angela Lockett, the former student athlete from Horseman, showed up at the picnic, and she brought 2 lawnmowers and put them on the U-Haul. And it's strange that we haven't been able to use them yet because Mother Nature has just dumped more and more water on top of us.
Yeah.
We do have them. Thank you.
Anyone? Councilwoman, wait.
I would be remiss in not congratulating, but I am congratulating my pastor, Marlon C. Mack, on his marriage on this past Saturday to Miss Shantae Bellew. We have a first lady, and we appreciate her marrying my pastor.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You will. Is there any other council members? Let me just say I want to thank this body for all that you all have done for me and my family in the transition of my grandfather at 93 years old, and especially thank the mayor. And I have to call these 2 ladies out on the council also, Councilwoman Brown and Councilwoman Linda Barnes-Caldwell. They continue to stay in contact with me, continue to make sure I was all right, my family. I really appreciate it. You never know when you may be next sitting in that seat. And as we sat here on last council meeting, I was sending my condolences out to Councilwoman Brown, not knowing I was eventually going to be myself, and within a matter of minutes that I sat here and got a call that my grandfather was in the midst of transitioning. That was the reason why I had to leave in such a rush at the last council meeting. And I've been out of communication with a lot of different things going on in the city, where I know I've been with Councilwoman Wyatt this past Saturday and Councilwoman Rogers in our meeting in the 4th District. But I do appreciate the calls and the support that you all have given me, and to the public also, the outpour of calls. And even when I left the meeting, I received so many calls from people wondering what was going on because they wasn't used to me getting out of the seat here. So I appreciate people just being concerned. You don't have to be, but I do appreciate it. sometimes we live this life and sometimes we take it for granted so much. And Calvin, I want to thank you also too. You went over and beyond for me during that time, and I appreciate you also. We live this life and sometimes we take life so for granted, and like we're going to live forever and things are going to stay the same, but we never know what may hit us at an instant and may change our lives forever. Even though my grandfather was 93 and some people say, oh, he lived a long, fulfilled life, that disconnect still plays in your heart when you're used to that person. My grandfather has been able to move around mobile on his own for many years. He just stopped driving at 92, and that was something to have to make him stop driving at 92. But as his health started declining, he lived with me and my wife over 10 years, and we was a caretaker for him. But he helped us out in so many different ways there, and not just for us being a caretaker for him. We didn't have to caretake for him for the last part of his life, but he pretty much helped us out, as Councilman Proto said, at the daycare, with taking kids back and forth to school. He was a great help to our family, and he would truly be missed in our family. Also, I just want to add, this Sunday coming up, my church is taking on the block. We are having a community block party September 9th, starting at 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. is the worship service where we'll be having church outside. And from there, from 12 to 4 is the community block party that will be taking place also, too. So I just want to invite everyone to come out. We got 2 great events that's happening in Edna this weekend. I mean, Edna has a lot going on. I know the Fest in the First didn't happen, but we got some things still going on in the First District, and we're doing it inside the Edna area. So I'm asking everyone to come out and be a part of the community development, not community development, Edna Manor Revitalization Party that will take place on the 8th, and also the Miracle Temple Block Party will take place on the 9th. That's Sunday the 9th, starting at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. All that are welcome. Everything is free for both of these events. God bless you all. Council pending ordinance and resolution on third and final.
CPL 2018-32, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petition Derek R. Hess, 9400 Indian Boundary, Gary, Indiana. Property at 9400 Indian Boundary, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President,
Councilman.
I move for passage of CPO 2018-32.
Second.
Moving properly second. Overview at this time.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, good evening. This pending ordinance is being proposed, or at least the variance requested in the ordinance is for the property located at 9400 Indian Boundary. Mr. Derek Hess is petitioning for a use variance at that address, and it's for his property to accommodate an unpermitted conversion by the previous owners from a 2-unit multifamily property to a 4-unit multifamily property. The property is currently zoned R2. 2-unit properties are allowed, but 4-unit properties are not. Approving this variance simply corrects an issue that originated with the previous owners. There were 33 notices mailed, 5 were not deliverable, 0 opposed, 3 not opposed, and 25 received no response. The BZA voted to approve Mr. Hess's request for a variance.
Is there questions from any council members? Thank you. At this time, public portion is open. Anyone would like to speak for or against CPO 2018-32? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
William Goglin, 1st District. I just wanted to briefly say that I represent Mr. Hess as his realtor. This property is currently under contract, and one of the contingencies that we must pass or fix is making sure the property is appropriately zoned. And so this gentleman still lives in the Miller area of the 1st District, and is prepared to sell his property. And so we're thankful that we've been able to make it this far and hope that we're able to get passage tonight. If there are any questions, I'd be delighted to answer those. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, public portion is now closed. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proko?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-32 passes on third and final. So ordered.
CPO 2018-33, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana, petitioner Darrell D. Suttles, P.O. Box 71186, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, property at 1013 Broadway, Gary, Indiana.
President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-33.
Second?
It's been moved and properly second by Councilwoman Caldwell. Overview at this time.
Good evening again, Mr. President, members of the council. Mr. Suttles is petitioning for a use variance to establish a tattoo and piercing shop at 1013 Broadway. Historically, those shops have been allowed in manufacturing districts, and quite frankly, I think this variance really is a recognition of this being a much more acceptable practice than it was when our ordinances were established. I've also asked our team to look at really updating the ordinances generally as it relates to this and some of the other maybe outdated or more outmoded ordinances. But as it relates to this use variance, it would allow for the establishment of the tattoo shop in the shopping center, the strip mall at 1013 Broadway, and the property is currently zoned B4. Tattoo shops, as I said before, are currently allowed as special uses only in manufacturing zones. There were 13 notices mailed, 3 were not deliverable, 0 opposed, 2 not opposed, and 2 did not provide a response. The BZA voted to approve Mr. Suttles' request for a variance. And I just wanted to note, some of you were present at the hearing, at the, trying to think of the planning, could not think of the word planning, at the planning meeting, and the person who represented Mr. Suttles there said that, talked about how excited she was about opening a business in Gary, Indiana. And, you know, there are a lot of folks with that enthusiasm, but she just seemed to exude it in a way that I thought was noteworthy. And so I would just ask that the board approve this as well, or the council approve this as well.
Is there any questions, council members?
Is the owner here tonight?
Yes, yes, he is, Mr. Suttles.
All right, we just wanted to make sure you were present, Mr. Suttles.
Okay. Okay. No other questions? Public portion is now open. Anyone would like to speak for or against CPO 2018-34? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
Yes, good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District. As a matter of fact, I live just catty-corner from the location where Mr. Suttles will be locating his tattoo parlor. I'd bring to the board's attention, the council's attention, that the city of Gary has a lot of tattoo parlors. We have Roy's Badlands right on Broadway down the street. We have Famous Legs on Ridge Road. We have Still Crazy on Central. We have 2 tattoo parlors on Lake Street in Miller. Now, none of them are located in M1 zones. So when the mayor says we've got some outdated zoning, please take that to heart, because time after time after time after time, these businesses come to Gary, have to go through the ridiculous gymnastics of going through all this process to get what is a very reasonable business. I would suggest that tattoo parlors are have very little difference than a barber shop or a hair shop or a dentist or a doctor or other normal businesses where people have these professional services done. And to have the restrictive requirement of M1. Do you know that although there are tattoo parlors all over the region, almost every community has a tattoo parlor, not one of them has the requirement that it be located in an M1 zone. Try to imagine that. Only in a city like Gary, and after time after time after time of going through this process, hearing over and over, it's not required to have this restriction. And we're still haven't fixed it. So pass this ordinance today. Pass this ordinance today. But then please take a little bit of work and change the building code, change the code in the city, take the mayor at her word, and make it so that we don't have to go through this over and over again.
Thank you, Mr. Nowacki. Seeing no one else, public portion is now closed.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Wade.
At the planning meeting, we had a discrepancy in the address, and I was wondering, had the ordinance been amended to reflect the change in the address?
I would refer that back to the administration to give us an answer to that. I wasn't a part of the meeting.
It was my understanding that it was corrected that day, but before, let me double check that. Mr. President, it should be 1029.
1029.
That is the store address. And 1013 is the unit, the entire strip mall. And I don't think it was the intent of the council to change the zoning for the entire strip mall. But it, I defer to you all on that.
That says this one says 1013.
Yeah.
And if it's supposed
Yeah, it should say 1029.
to say 1020. So we just need an amendment.
So can we just amend it by substitution then?
I would request that it be amended by substitution.
Okay, Mr. President, I move to amend CPO 2018-33 by substitution to correct the address and make it 1029 instead of 1013.
Second.
Been moved properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk, on the amendment.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0. CPO 2018-33 has been amended. The changes is changing the address of 1029 Broadway, Gary, Indiana. So ordered. Is there any other discussion on CPO 2018-33? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-33 passes on third and final. So ordered.
CPO 2018-34, an ordinance establishing a restriction for the establishment of daycare facilities in the city of Gary, sponsored by Herbert Smith, Councilman at Large.
I need to be put on the floor first.
You gotta put it on the floor.
I need a motion on the floor first.
Okay. Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-34. I'm sorry.
Second by Councilwoman Caldwell. Overview at this time.
Thank you, Mr. President. The intent of 2018-34, as spelled out in the ordinance, was to prevent any future daycares within 1,000 feet of a known sex offender for being eligible to seek such a daycare. The sex offenders was spelled out under Indiana Code 35-42-4-11, exactly as it's currently spelled out, with sex offenders being located within 1,000 feet of a public school. It's important to note that it's not all sex offenders and all sex offending cases, but just those that are relevant to children, again, as set forth within the statute 3542-4-11. It's also important to note that all current daycares would be grandfathered in. This ordinance would not touch and concern such daycares. That is all.
Is there any questions from any council members at this time?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Wyatt.
for the attorney, does the, can we make the distinction between what kind of sex offender it is, that it's only children? I mean, is there a way to do that?
It's spelled out in the actual ordinance.
No, but my question is, can we do that when we get a list of sex offenders? Like, can we tell from the list of sex offenders which ones come within this?
It would take some due diligence on behalf of the zoning department, but yes, the publication simply lists sex offenders, but
Right.
you can do a little due diligence and determine the offense in which they were convicted of.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. This time, public portion is now open. Anyone would like to speak for or against CPO 2018-34? You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District. I did attend the committee meeting, and at the committee meeting, I think we talked about how perhaps this ordinance that you'll probably pass today is somewhat misdirected. Time and time again, we've heard from the council, we've heard from the public as well, that there is a concern that the city has too many daycare facilities, and also the nature of the daycare facilities that have been locating in our city most recently. These are facilities that are not home daycare the way any of us would understand. In other words, it's someone's home and they have daycare, but people who rent a house and then fill it, commercialize it by running a commercial business in a residential area. And I think this I think is a problem in the city. You will not find that in adjacent, more successful communities. You will find home daycare centers, but they are home daycare centers. Someone lives there. They limit the number of children in the daycare center, and you are able to do that here. Instead, you take this kind of odd stance without actually addressing the problem that this commercialization of residential areas and the filling the facilities beyond their capacity. In other words, it may meet state standards, but we have community standards too, and I don't think this addresses that at all. So pass this, because I think it will not address the problems that are identified over and over and over before the council, and I think it's actually kind of wrong. It lines up wrong in that sex offenders are not supposed to be near these facilities. They're not supposed to be able to dictate where the facilities can go. So this is kind of wrong in a couple of different ways. Pass it if you want, but you're going to have to come back again with another ordinance that really does restrict the establishment of daycare centers to, number one, home daycare centers, and number two, make sure that they are not intrusive or overly intrusive or change the character of the adjacent residential neighborhoods. Thank you.
Good evening to the council. Kendra S. Johnson, 4th District. When hearing and looking at this ordinance, many things came to mind. Number one, when you're talking about registered sex offenders, the thing is, many times sex offenders give a particular address but don't actually live there. During my research years ago, I found out that a lot of sex offenders gave addresses in Dory, Miller, and Delaney. But we also know that the Gary Housing Authority does not allow or make a policy of allowing individuals that are that have been arrested and convicted of certain crimes to live in the Housing Authority. So that's one of the things that I thought about. Also in agreement, if there is a registered sex offender in the area, it should be checked to see if that person actually lives there. There have been cases in papers across the country of individuals giving an address, moving, and not letting the law enforcement or the person that they're supposed to report to know that they have been moved. And then the technicality of home daycare and the idea of someone's home being used in a daycare. One of the things about ordinances is that many times they can be amended, they can be re-examined, and they can also be changed. Now, whether or not that should be the case for tonight, I leave that to your discretion and your consideration. But remember, technicalities are one of the things that allow individuals that are charged with a crime to get off when it's not followed up correctly. Thank you and have a good evening.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the Gary City Council. My name is Jason Reeves, and I do some writing in terms of the Hearn Foundation, which is an endowment of business and engineering solutions. I have a strong belief there's good and bad daycare facilities. And one of the vital constrictions, as you talk about a restriction, it's almost in terms of, I hope the restriction is in terms of the cleanliness and the decency of the facility, whether it's a home or an established business facility. It goes along with daycare, kindergarten, grade school, high school, colleges, and universities. I mean, from one step to the other, it should be cleanliness, decency, and responsibility to have a facility that is efficient and safe and humble to the children and the constituents that attend these facilities. Thank you.
Bill Kosarch, 1st District. What's disturbed me the last 40 years, in Gary, daycare has become an industry, not a convenience and not a way to do things. It's an industry. If you're ever going to rebuild this city, you're not going to merchandise it on how many churches you got, how many liquor stores, how many daycare centers you have. Property value here in most of the city is next to worthless. There's a need for daycare, but go to Holbrook, East Chicago, Munster, Maryville. Try to do the stuff I've seen done in this city because somebody knows somebody or somebody hides behind the kids or the working mom and says, boy, oh boy, we need a daycare. You're not going to get away with it. That's why we look the way we do. One of the speakers mentioned community standards. You have to have some sort of standards if you want to ever rehabilitate this city. We got 70% of the city on welfare and on fixed income. Do you understand that? We got income less than $16,000 a year. We got houses that would sell anywhere else in the country for $200,000 or $300,000, selling for $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 around here, because the location in Gary is considered totally undesirable. But as Albert Einstein said, the great scientist, the definition of insanity is to keep doing exactly the same things over and over and over and expect a different result. Somebody's got to bite the bullet and have the intestinal fortitude to say enough is enough. I mean, people got to put the kids somewhere, and I understand that with the destruction of the American economy and jobs and men that would normally be making decent wages, mom has to work 2 minimum wage jobs to make ends meet, and she has to put those children somewhere. But this is a societal problem too, that the idea, but still the idea is, well, Gary, I personally, I think it's too late in the game anyway, because it's already established a precedence here of the ambiance of this community. You know, you're wanting to come Amazon to come here, and you want corporate headquarters of the most prosperous company in the world to come here, and they're going to come here looking at a place like this? I mean, be for real. You know, be for real. You're all in charge as city's mothers and fathers, political dignitaries, of the welfare of the city. Not your friends, your family, or you're afraid somebody at a church or sorority or fraternity or somebody in one of your little plantation peer groups may be on your case. Sometimes you got to bite the bullet and make tough decisions. Sometimes you have to do it.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, public portion is closed. Any discussion, council members?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman White.
a couple of things. One thing, as a working mother, I know that it's difficult to find good, stable daycare. So I don't have a problem with entrepreneurs establishing daycares. I think it's a service that's needed, and so I'm glad that they're doing it. My concern about this ordinance is that while I, of course, don't want any children to be put into harm's way, I don't think this is the most appropriate way to do that. I think that the type of the management of the daycare and how it's run will be the more appropriate way. And I think that by adding another layer of restrictions on where daycare centers or home daycares can locate just inhibits more business in the city. And so for those reasons, I will be voting against it.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Hatcher.
I was able to attend the meeting about this ordinance, and I understand everything that Councilwoman Wyatt has brought up, and she made some good points, but the reason that I am, of course, for children not being in harm's way when it comes to sex offenders or anybody else that causes harm to other people. However, by restricting the daycare instead of restricting the sex offender, I think is kind of a turned around way of looking at it. If we have a business that wants to locate in the city, we should be pro-business instead of pro-criminal. I have a lot of thoughts about the criminal justice system and how some people become sex offenders who should never become sex offenders in the eyes of the law. However, I don't think it should be up to the business to find another location. If there's a sex offender living in the area and the business wants to locate there, of course they need to do the research that's necessary to see if he's a violent sex offender or if the sex offenses were against children. That's a really big distinguish, and especially in the eyes of the law. The law distinguishes by age and a number of other factors. But when I was a prosecutor, I saw a few cases come through, and not many, but a few where you would have a 18-year-old senior with a 15-year-old sophomore in high school, and that would be considered a sex offense because the the age of consent is 16 in Indiana, not 15. And if you get somebody over 18, which is considered an adult, then you have a problem because you have a child and an adult, even though they're a senior and a sophomore in the same high school. So I just want to not necessarily protect sex offenders and not necessarily try to make a distinguishment between it all the time, but in this case, I think we have to kind of figure out a better way to do it. And I really appreciate where Councilman Smith was going with it and why he feels that way about it. I just think it needs to be just changed just a bit. So if it passes, fine. I just think that we're kind of off when we are thinking about, especially how the law thinks about sex offenders. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyone else? Councilman Smith?
Okay, yes, sir. Okay, first of all, the ordinance is narrowly tailored to sex offenders who've been convicted as child predators and things of that sort. And it specifically indicates that in the ordinance. Another thing, what I did was I took 2 unofficial polls of the community. One, I put it on Nextdoor, which has a large group of people on there. And unofficially, no, meaning they support the ordinance, and yes, meaning they're in opposition to the ordinance. The 64 votes were no at 82%, and yes, 17% was about 3 people who were totally against the ordinance. What I also did was I had the host of WLTH put it on the radio and on their morning talk show, and it was overwhelmingly against putting a new daycare center in an area where there's already a sex offender. What this ordinance is basically about is not trying to deny a person a right to be an entrepreneur or open a daycare, even though I'm hearing those complaints. What this ordinance do is just specifically provides an additional layer of security and safety for our children. Put yourself in a parent's position and knowing that next door there's a sex offender. You leaving your child there. Do you really want to do that? Or when you really want to know? So this asks the city, BZA, to look prior to allowing this a daycare to be established in an established neighborhood. And that's all I'm asking. Look, if there's a sex offender in that neighborhood, we're not saying you can't open your daycare center, but we just don't think it's the proper place to put it within 1,000 feet of a sex offender. And that's basically what the ordinance does. Thank you.
Mr. President, oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, is there anyone else before I go to the second round? Okay, Councilwoman Hatcher.
President?
Oh.
Well, Councilwoman Rogers, then I'll.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to my constituent. If a convicted sex offender willingly gives a wrong address on that paperwork, then they could be charged, pretty much. So they could really get into trouble if they think that they could put one address and live somewhere else. Thank you.
Councilwoman Hatcher.
Yes, I just wanted to say I'm not against the spirit of the ordinance at all. I don't want children close to sex offenders. I just don't like the way it's written. I don't know how else to say it. I just don't like the way that the ordinance reads. I don't think it helps the business community of the city, and I think that it would be very difficult not only to track and to monitor, but I am a parent. I have kids in preschool right now, and basically I have not done a search to see if there's any sex offenders in the neighborhood that my preschool is in. However, I trust the people that I leave my children with to make sure that people aren't walking in the preschool off the street either. So I think it has a lot to do with both sides of that. And, you know, what I would like to see is something saying that sex offenders cannot live within so many feet of or yards of a daycare. Turn it around the same way that we restrict their proximity to schools. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman White.
with just one other issue, I think that this ordinance may interfere with property rights of someone as well, and that's another reason that I don't think that it's appropriate for us to pass it. If someone wants to open a daycare center and they want to use their property in that way, then we may have restricted it inappropriately.
Okay. So if I'm hearing this right, the way this ordinance is written is, if someone come before this body and they wants to put a daycare, in which we see many daycares come before this body, and if this is passed on the books, it's stating if a sex offender exists in that area there, they cannot open a daycare.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the way it's written.
Okay.
And again, I'm not against the spirit of it as well. I just think that it's an awkward way to do it.
Okay. Well, I do know there's a high number of sex offenders that's inside of the city. And Councilor Smith, do you have a number of what the number of sex offenders are?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. My research came up with 996 identified sex offenders. That's a broad number of sex offenders, not just specifically child predators. And 288 identified registered sex offenders. So there is a large number of sex offenders in the community. As far as the rest of the community, Gary has the largest ratio of sex offenders per population.
So the way I'm hearing it, I see where you're going with this here. Basically, it's a protection for the kids if we do have a number of that high, where we're allowing daycares to come inside of our community and open up, and we're putting them pretty much in a situation where something could possibly happen. If that's the way I'm understanding the way this ordinance is.
Absolutely. But it doesn't prevent a person from opening a daycare center. Totally. It just says that you just can't put it within 1,000 feet of a known sex offender. If they move 2 blocks over or further down the block, then they're probably good to go.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown.
is it left up to the discretion of the daycare owner or who to find out where the sex offender, or the BZA? Who needs to find out where these sex offenders are? I mean, whose responsibility is this?
The intent, well, if you're going to, I've been a businessman for a long time. One, if you're going to open a business, you come up with a business plan. And in the promulgation of that business plan, you do your homework, because you look at all the variables, you look at all the issues, you do your due diligence. So the onus is on both. One, the person who wants to own or operate a daycare, they need to do their due diligence and know where they're putting this, because they're putting not just their business in jeopardy of lawsuits and things of that sort, but they're putting your child in harm's way. But the onus also is on the city, BZA, to look, before they come before us. That's what I was really getting at. Somebody needs to look.
So if I was talking to the attorney, it would be zoning that would have to do the research on it. Yes, ultimately be zoning. Mayor?
Mr. President, and to Councilman Smith, the sponsor of this, like all of you, I support the spirit of this ordinance. I think that we can never take too many measures to take our children safe. But I think this cuts right at the heart of property rights. And it's not the people who are engaged in simply a daycare as a business proposition. It really does speak to those folks who want to do home-based daycares as was originally intended by Indiana statute. What it says is, if you live in a home and want to do a true home-based daycare, you are now limited if your home is within 1,000 feet of a sex offender. So it takes away that homeowner's right to have a daycare in their home. I don't think that's what's intended. I think the intent is really directed at maintaining a safe environment for children. And I think that this really does speak to the task force that will meet prior to the end of the month, have its first meeting, that is, prior to the end of the month, to really address the restrictions, or not restrictions, but the regulations that the city and the city council wants to place on daycares in the city. But I'm very uncomfortable with this restriction on a homeowner's property rights.
Well, Mr. President.
Councilor Smith.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, it seems to me that where we are is at some sort of impasse here with this ordinance. But what about the property rights of the neighbors who don't want daycares in their neighborhood? And I'm not trying to conflate two problems. And we seem to have no problem putting them in the neighborhoods and doing that. My whole purpose of this is just to protect the right of a child. And I just think we're doing the right thing by putting forth an ordinance where I believe the legislature is going to look at later this year and probably come up with something to fix it, similar to what I'm proposing. We're just ahead of the game, that's all. Thank you.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Rogers.
I think if I'm understanding this correctly, that what Councilwoman Hatcher indicated was that if this ordinance could possibly be changed or amended to say 1,000 feet, I think that was the issue, that it did not say 1,000 feet from a daycare.
It does say that. It's in there.
What was it that you...
I was just saying that right now, by state law, sex offenders have to stay so far away from schools and other places like that. They're required to do that by state law. And so I think that's kind of where Councilman Smith is trying to go, to make sure that there's no sex offenders within the perimeter of the daycare. But the state law puts the onus on the offender. Our ordinance would be putting the onus on the homeowner that houses the daycare. One of the other things that is another way to distinguish it is that these are home daycares. So these are places where the owners are supposed to live. So can we tell that owner that they need to move out of their house if they want to open a daycare? And I'm not sure if I heard what the mayor said. I'm not sure if legally we can do that, but it just doesn't feel right to make people move out if they feel like they want to have their daycare there. And then it would be up to the parents too to say, okay, I'm going to check out and see if there are sex offenders around this place, and do I want to send my kid there? And then if there are, then that parent has a choice too of saying, okay, well, your house is located within 1,000 feet of a sex offender. I don't want to send my kid there. There's some.
I was wondering just whether or not it can it go back to committee? Can it go back to committee for further discussion? And so we can hopefully, I mean, I really like the ordinance. I like what he's trying to do here, and I really would like to see something passed that we can all agree upon.
Well, I do know home daycares does not mean you have to live in the home. It's just saying it's a home daycare. I like the spirit of it. If I had to go through the same thing all over again, what me and my wife went through, we will have to adhere to it. We did do our investigation, and we were surprised to see as many sex offenders was in our area. But we knew we had to put special precautions in because your kids is your jewel, just like my kids is my jewels. And we knew as we had your kids in our custody, we have to protect them by any means necessary and making sure they're not in harm's way. But I know we need to do something because we do have a large number of daycares in our community, and numbers of daycare continue to come. There's some more that's coming down the pipeline in the next couple of weeks there before we meet. So something needs to be put in place if this is a problem. But I think we need to bring the actual factual data in also so we all can be aware of what's taking place inside of the city also. But if that's the chair, planning chair position to take it back to committee, I'm fine with that also.
Mr. President, okay, what I do is what I will do is make a motion to move, what's the ordinance number? CPO 2018-34 back to committee.
Second.
Is there a date yet?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, before you do that, the motion needs to be withdrawn first. Withdraw your motion for passage.
Okay.
And we'll do that first, and then you can make the motion to take it back, okay?
Okay, Mr. President, I move to withdraw CPO 2018-34.
Second.
Moving properly second to withdraw CPO 2018-34 for a third, final? Just withdraw the motion, yes.
Okay, Mr. President,
We're gonna have to do the roll call vote on it. Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk?
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
Vote 9-0, CPO 2018-34 has been withdrawn from the agenda at this time. Councilman Smith?
Okay, Mr. President, I move to move CPO 2018-34 back to committee.
And that's not the agenda from third and final. Give me that again, Councilman.
Okay, I move to move CPO 2018-34 back to committee.
You have a date?
Yeah. I don't want to make it on the same day, but I'll just bring it right back. Well, yeah, we can go with September 11th, 6 o'clock.
Okay. Second, is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Caldwell. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-34 is going back to committee September the 9th.
11th.
September 11th, thank you, September 11th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2018-35, an ordinance decriminalizing the possession of 30 grams or less of marijuana within the city limits. 2, to prescribe the maximum penalty to be imposed by the Gary City Court for such possession. And 3, to declare that the penalty imposed shall not include any term of imprisonment. Sponsored by Reagan Hatcher, Councilwoman at large.
This was Councilwoman Caldwell. This is yours, some Ways and Means.
Sorry. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-35.
Second.
Moving probably second. Overview at this time.
Mr. President, would it be okay if I give an overview?
Yes.
Thank you. This ordinance came from, and I think I talked a little bit about it before, I wasn't sure if it was at committee, but at a recent trip to a National League of Cities NBC Leo conference, which is basically the organization of African American local elected officials, there was a lot of talk about how they, in the larger cities, have began to go around the state to decriminalize marijuana in cities. There are currently 30 states out of our 50 that have decriminalized marijuana in one way or the other. In the states that have not done so, there have been cities that have taken their own measure to begin the process of the decriminalization of marijuana. In our ordinance, we're not saying that marijuana is not illegal anymore. It is still illegal. However, what it does is it changes it from it gives the officer an option of arresting on a misdemeanor charge, which is the normal in the state of Indiana, or arresting or giving a ticket through a city ordinance. That ticket through the city ordinance would be given on site to the person who has the marijuana and would be payable in the clerk's office without going in front of the judge or without all the other extras that go along with normally being arrested for possession of marijuana. Originally, the ordinance stated 30 grams or less, and that's because in Charleston, South Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, and Jackson, Mississippi, they use 30 grams as their threshold. At a committee meeting, there was a bit of pushback from that because it's a bit more than an ounce of marijuana. And so I would propose that we cut it in half, and we kind of talked about that too at the committee meeting, changing it from 30 grams to 15 grams. I still can't tell you how much 15 grams would be, but I guess approximately a half an ounce of marijuana. I don't know how many joints or I don't know what that translates into. However, it's not enough for distribution from what I understand. So that was kind of where the idea came from. Being a former prosecutor too, one of the first charges that I see young black men come into the legal system with is either possession of marijuana or handgun no permit. And I think that based on the fact that 30 other states have begun to legalize marijuana, and the fact that even right across the line in Chicago, all they're giving is tickets now, that we're not far off from what the trend is. Most times, Indiana, in all aspects of the law, is usually last on the list to do anything progressive. And so I think it's going to take the cities that it impacts the most to come forward and begin to do something to make Indiana see that a change is necessary. Now, I wrote down a couple of statistics because I thought it was interesting to note a few things before we move into the vote. First of all, I have to say that being an attorney, institutional racism is real, and it's real not only in our criminal justice system, but in every aspect of life. From when you get that first marijuana charge, if you are lucky enough to be a 21st century scholar, which means you're already low income and normally a minority, when you get that possession of marijuana charge, no matter how much marijuana it is, it kicks you out of the 21st century scholar program. That's the program that gives low-income minorities mostly their opportunity to go to college for 4-year paid for. Also, it stops the opportunity for college-bound students to be able to obtain federal student loans. It's so many aspects that it hits. Secondly, in just 2017, in 2015, there were 650,000 arrested for marijuana possession. And 90% of those were for simple possession. So that means a joint, or that means a very small amount of marijuana. Also, out of the 8.2 million arrested between 2001 and 2010 on any drug possession, 7 million of those were marijuana arrests. And of those arrests, 4 times more blacks were arrested than whites, even though whites and blacks use marijuana at basically the same rate. Beyond all that, the loss of the public benefit, the cost and expense of attorney fees when you're brought to trial on these things, the cost of getting your car towed because there was drugs in the car when you got pulled over. All of those things directly impact people of color at a much higher rate, and especially people in cities just like Gary. Finally, I just want to say that in just June, Oklahoma became the 30th state to legalize marijuana. I feel like we are behind the trend on this so far that we have to do something. Now, I know that there's been pushback because of the fact that it is illegal in the state of Indiana. All I'm saying in this proposal is that we're just giving our officers a choice. If an officer arrests someone for a bigger crime, then normally if marijuana is found, marijuana is charged, and rightfully so. So what this would do is say if a police officer pulls over somebody and they put down the window and the smell of marijuana wafts out at the police officer, instead of having to arrest them for that, they would simply be able to give them a ticket that would be paid by city ordinance at $100 a rate, at $100 a time, and that charge would never increase. And then the final thing that everybody says as well, you know, you still have to pass a drug test when you go to work. That's absolutely true. I'm not saying U.S. Steel is going to change their policy tomorrow, but I'm saying the same way that you don't go to work drunk or you don't go to work high on some other drug, you shouldn't expect to be able to go to work using marijuana if your employer does not allow it. So I think that's all.
Okay. Any questions, council members?
Mr. President.
Councilman Smith.
Okay, I support the spirit of 2018-35 because months ago I had a similar idea. But when I talked to the law department, they did the research and it came back that we couldn't do this ordinance, even though I support it. I still do. I still think it's necessary and it needs to happen. But the law department said we could not do it. Even our counsel for this body right here is opposed to it, saying that it can't be done. So I support the spirit of it. Something needs to be done, but I don't know how we're going to be able to do it when legal minds are telling us that it can't be done. So I don't know where I'm going to do yet.
Councilwoman.
Mr. President, you know, I too support the spirit of this, and everything that Councilwoman Hatcher said is absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. But what happens when you give that ticket and they go to court? What position have we put the judge in? Because it's still against state law. That places her in a position, she can't, I mean, what can she do? I just think that we have placed her in a heck of a position because it's against state statute. So I've had an opportunity to have some conversation with her regarding this, and she recognizes the fact that it is against state statute. So there is no way for them to put a ticket in the system for something that is against state statute. So that is the problem. I mean, I concur with everything Councilwoman Hatcher has said, but we are placing the judge in a heck of a position. I don't want to be guilty of doing that. That's, you know, that's my position. I don't.
Anyone else?
Should I wait till the end?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yeah, I also support this, but recognizing what Councilwoman Brown has said, I wonder how the other states, other cities have dealt with this, because other cities have passed ordinances where their state does not, still is criminal in the state. So I wonder if we can find out how they've dealt with it so that we can do that as well.
Let me bring the chief up because I know there's an emergency and that the chief may have to leave out. So chief, if you can come at this time, and we will still entertain that question, but I do want to recognize the chief. I don't want him to have to leave because I know there's a situation going on at hand.
Good evening.
Good evening, chief.
Good. With the spirit of the ordinance, we still have to look at the legality of it as far as law enforcement officers go. We're still bound by state law in regards to this marijuana ordinance. So it's something that we'd have to look to. I think we need to look a little bit further into it, not just say the officer can write the citation and supersede the state law. So that's something I think we need to probably.
The mayor wants to ask you a question also,
I'm
chief.
still not understanding what you're saying.
Well, the state law says currently it says 30 grams or less.
Right.
We're state certified law enforcement officers, so we're bound by the law. Now I don't know legalities as far as the city ordinance. If there's a city ordinance that's enacted, if the officer has that discretion not to arrest or if he can supersede, I know by state law we're required to arrest. So as far as the ordinance goes, I'm not quite sure how that would come into play.
Well, can you put a ticket in the system for something that's illegal? I understand that there's a system that when you issue a ticket, it's put into a system. I don't know, I forgot what the name of the system is.
Okay.
So if it's something that's against state statute, can you do it?
That would be up to the courts. I can't.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That places it.
Right now, I can't.
Position. Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying? I can't make that.
Okay.
So what the chief is basically telling us that he's a sworn officer through the state of Indiana, and he has to hold the laws of the state of Indiana. Mayor, you have a question?
Chief, what is your current practice if someone is stopped and you only find a small amount of marijuana? What is the practice or policy of the department currently?
Currently, we arrest for possession of marijuana. It's a misdemeanor, and we arrest and go to court. As far as the citation goes, I don't know, but right now our policy is if you're found with marijuana, you are arrested.
And Councilwoman Wyatt, I wanted to get your question answered. Can you repeat your question for us also?
Oh, I was actually asking for Councilwoman Hatcher if she knew how other cities and states were still, possession of marijuana is still illegal, how they've dealt with this.
Should I go ahead?
Yes.
Okay. So at the conference that I was at, as I said, there was a representative there from Colorado, from South Carolina, and from Atlanta, and from Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi. Out of all those, the state of Georgia was the only state that challenged the city of Atlanta in that. The city of Atlanta ultimately won because their home rule does not have the restrictions.
Microphone, please.
Because the home rule in Georgia does not have the restrictions that our home rule has here. So they ultimately won. However, in those other states, there was just no challenge, and they just allowed the city to operate in that way. I think that would be something that would be up to the state of Indiana My hope was that if we could move forward here today, I would take our ordinance on to the city of Hammond and the city of East Chicago, 3 of the largest cities in the state of Indiana that this really impacts, and where it impacts the citizenry and the young people of the community in those 3 cities the most. Take that, hopefully they would be passing all 3, and hopefully move from there to the state level and say, hey, these cities want it, we need it, can we start to do something at the state level as well? So, of course, you know, anytime a law is changed, it's never changed very easily. There's usually a battle, there's usually a challenge and a fight, but that's how things happen and that's how things change. And so I would, because we're the type of city that we are and it really impacts our type of city, I would love to see us say that we'll be the ones that lead the charge in making this change in the state of Indiana. And so I don't doubt, maybe it will be a challenge, maybe it won't. It's certainly a possibility, and I don't want to imply that I don't think that there will be. It could be, it certainly could be. Even if we pass it today and not implement it right away until we see if the state will challenge us, that could be a way to move forward. Any way that we can move forward here and take it to those 2 other cities and ask them to move forward with us would show a really strong stance from Northwest Indiana on the issue.
Mr. President?
Councilwoman Wade.
We had a very spirited conversation in committee meeting in regards to this ordinance, and we take, you know, this situation very, very seriously. Each point that Councilwoman Hatcher made is important and relevant to the situation. I am concerned with what the chief is saying, and that the position that it puts our police officers in, because they are state certified. And as Councilwoman Brown indicated, I am concerned about the position that our judge would be in. I would like to see some conclusion in regards to, again, how it was handled by other cities. When the challenge comes forth, whether or not our judge is able to enforce it. So at the end of the day, I would like to see what our police officers, what our police officers feel about this, because I'm sure they have a position, you know, as well. Because this is a change in culture, because people are accustomed to being arrested for marijuana. It's an, you know, illegal drug, controlled substance. And again, I would like to see what our police officers feel about it, what the chief actually feels about it, if you could expound on.
Well, again, like we are, again, state certified officers, so it's our duty to enforce the laws of the state of Indiana, also the cities, the ordinances of the city of Gary. So that's something that we would have to, I just can't stand up here and say every officer would be for it or against it or what would be, but I do know we are required by law to make arrests for marijuana. And if those laws change, that would be up to the court system and the legal system.
And one more thing, we were discussing home rule at the committee meeting. Could you, Attorney Williams, explain?
Yes, I think the difference between other states and Indiana is that the states previously mentioned have laxed home rules or no home rule at all. Indiana has a very rigorous limiting home rule, which limits the authority of municipalities to do things such as this. So under Indiana Code 36-1-3-8, it specifically states you cannot do this. You cannot create a law that lessens the penalty of a current state statute. It says it in black and white. So you would be passing an ordinance that directly conflicts with home rule, which I'm sure would bring legal challenge. But again, my position is I'm just obligated, I believe, to tell you the law. And in my opinion, you would be sued and you would be passing an ordinance knowing it's in violation of current home rule. And that's the difference. Other states don't have such a rigorous home rule. It's simple as that.
Mr. President?
Councilman Smith.
Okay, when I was doing the research on this ordinance months ago, I talked to Porter County, which has a policy. And the officers there, I talked to the commander over there, and they have a policy, not an ordinance, where the officer can make a decision whether he wants to go further and charge you with 30 grams or less. So that's how they resolve the issue. So other communities have looked at something similar to this, adjacent to us, and I spoke to them, and I spoke to Porter County specifically, and that's how they get around it. They're officers. They have a policy where the officer, if you're stopped and you have 30 grams or less, they don't have to arrest you. Because to me, I'm still on board with Councilwoman Hatchett with the spirit of it, that it's a waste of resources and everything. You know, it is. But that's how they get around it. So I just don't know how we're going to get around it. You know? So thank you.
All right. Well, let's go to the public, and if any other questions, we'll come back to it. Thank you, Chief. At this time, public portion is open for anyone who'd like to speak for or against CPO 2018-35. You have 3 minutes to speak on this ordinance.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District here in the city of Gary, and I support legalizing medical marijuana. I support legalizing recreational use of marijuana regulated in our state. I know that we've addressed some of the issues of the stigma attached to marijuana use. I would just tell you that in the state of Indiana, hemp growing had once been one of our largest cash crops. Matter of fact, George Washington grew hemp on his plantation, Mount Vernon, and hemp had been grown since ancient times, a very important cash. It's illegal now in the state of Indiana even to grow hemp, to use it for a rope and for clothes and for all the useful purposes that hemp is very well suited for. I would also remind the council that surrounding states have no problem not only decriminalizing marijuana, but in many instances legalizing it. I'd walked down to Indianapolis last year lobbying for the use of medical marijuana because I know how important medical marijuana is to alleviate suffering for people who, both at the end of their life, but also for many illnesses and other problems that they have. And I know that in some instances it's the most effective medicine available for treating some of the symptoms of these illnesses. In Indiana, it's illegal. We can't trust the legislature to do what's right. If a law is wrong, it should be challenged. You know, I take, for example, Governor Daniels of our state. He freely admitted when he was in college he dealt marijuana right in his dorm room. George Bush had no problem saying when he was young he smoked marijuana. Bill Clinton, of course, famously smoked marijuana but didn't inhale. Now, I think it's wrong when a president of the United States is forced to lie, we know he inhaled, but forced to lie because of the stigma attached to recreational use of marijuana. Mr. President, members of the council, it's a chance for you to take a stand on this issue. I know there's going to be problems, but Judge Monroe, all she has to do is say, charge dismissed. It's her discretion to do that. Perfectly legal. Charge dismissed. Police officers are already understand that what a problem it is prosecuting these cases on the street level. Now, I know that there will be a challenge because that's going to be there is going to be a challenge, but I think the council can take a stand today It's a bad law, it's a wrong law, and it's a law that should be changed. Thank you.
Good evening, Kendra S. Johnson, 4th District. I'm kind of divided with this, and I will tell you why. I'm allergic to marijuana. It causes me to have problems breathing. It contributes to having migraines for me. And sometimes it causes me to break out in a rash when I'm around anybody that has smoked it or I smell it. But then when I think about it, there are a lot of people that are allergic to peanuts. There are a lot of people that are allergic to other items. And we don't stop producing those items because they're allergic to it. I feel for some of the cancer victims and for some of the veterans that are in severe pain, because it has been proven that marijuana can reduce some of their suffering. And I know of an oil right now that has a little bit of hemp in it that's being produced for medicinal purposes for individuals that have pain. But my biggest concern is, when I look at this, is, like I said, what does the state law say? But then in the same vein, I also see how the state of Indiana is violating a federal law and not being held accountable. And that federal law I always talk about is Title I law with Gary parents in the Gary Community School Corporation. But it's all about the enforcing, because we used to have an ordinance on the book, or I should say a state law, that says if you didn't have a penny in your pocket, you could be arrested for vagrancy. I don't know where the chief is, but is that law still on the book? And you can't say I have a debit card, because according to the ordinance or the law, it said you had to have a penny in your pocket not to be arrested for vagrancy. So a lot of people would be in a lot of trouble. Let me see, I do have pockets in my pants. So, and I do have a penny. So, but once again, it goes about what state law says, what federal law says, interpretation. So if we want to pass this type of ordinance, I believe what we should be doing is challenging the state and challenging the federal courts, and that's where all the veterans and all those individuals that suffer from cancer that want this relief, that's what they should be doing. If the gay lesbian community can bum rush Washington to get laws passed they want to get passed, why can't those individuals start there? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, council. A year ago, I had sponsored a resolution to go to state legislators asking for decriminalization of marijuana. There's a lot of times there's ordinances that come up, and I would love to pass those ordinances, but a lot of times it's in direct conflict. So our attorneys do the same as Renzo Williams that just told you it's not legal and you can get sued. So we always have to look for a different avenue. I would encourage this council to maybe partnership with us with a resolution, because we will be doing another resolution, again, supporting the decriminalization of marijuana. I think that's something we should look at. But I think we just fight. This is the like I heard earlier, I like the spirit, but it's a way to address it. And I don't think we need to get another lawsuit trying to fix the issue. So, thank you.
Bill Kosarch, bear with me. History. 1937, first marijuana laws came in. They dealt with, you could have marijuana with a tax. The problem is you could take this stuff to the U.S. Treasury and register it and pay a tax. It was legal, and they'd arrest you when you left. Okay, so the Supreme Court threw that one out. In 1937, the liquor industry in the United States was trying to recover. Now, men like my dad, they were called Roosevelt's Forest Army, 3 million of these guys, went to the West, California and Idaho. They got $30 a month or 6 days to plant trees, cut roads, reforestation, whatever. So you have more workers like my dad in Idaho than there are people, and it was OJT. You learned from the mountain men and the hermits how to deal with stuff. So one of the things you guys learn is since they didn't have any money, you didn't have gamblers there because they really had no money to gamble, no pimps or prostitutes, you can't pay them, so you had recreational time. So guys learned how to smoke stuff, and it was legal because marijuana grows everywhere. Whether people realize it or not, indica and sinsemilla grows everywhere. So the liquor industry got on the government and said, you better pass laws against this, because between 1790 and 1913, all your taxes that run the federal government come from two places: alcohol taxes, which is primary, and tariff taxes. So then, in conjunction with Anheuser-Busch, the rest of them, they passed these marijuana laws, very tough ones. And then Hollywood got on board. Like when I was in health and safety in high school, they showed us movies like Reefer Madness and Marijuana Roots from Hell, where if you had one puff of a marijuana cigarette, you would become a hopeless junkie, destroying yourself in the community. So the whole point is, it's an economic question. Now fast forward to today, you have 40 million people probably smoking this stuff, including policemen and judges, and all these people in these high status jobs are getting high. So therefore, things are changing. In Indiana, Bill Droser was state legislature in '82, and he introduced a bill downstate to decriminalize marijuana, and they buried it in committee, and they defeated him in the Democrat primary in '82. Chet Dobas won it. But that's neither here nor there. The whole point is, all these laws are hypocrisy, and lawyers are all big hypocrites too, because they're on both sides of the fence on this one. Problem is, marijuana, the federal government is supposed to enforce marijuana laws. They're not really doing it. How are they going to lock up 40 million people and charge them with felonies? I mean, we're locking up 2-3 million young black and white poor kids like crazy and using this as a hammer against them. So I think Ms. Hatcher has a really good idea as a feeler that, hey, wait a minute, this war on drugs is a war of genocide against certain groups. It's weaponized drugs. And you black people don't act like reactionaries and retreat us. Get on board with something progressive around here once in a while.
All right, I don't got all those stats and everything, but I'm Mark Hill Watkins, 1st District. But I just know a lot of people that this is a problem, you know, so I just think that as far as the city of Gary and other urban cities throughout the whole country, throughout this state, this is a problem for us. It's not a problem for all other cities, but it's a problem for us, and it feels like it's a target. So if it's something that we can do that can stop this from being a target on our kids, where they don't have to have a misdemeanor on their record, and the police can make a sound decision to say, hey, here's a ticket, or let them go for it, where they don't have to have their car towed, where they don't have to have a misdemeanor. And I think sometimes we do say, well, Indiana is this type of state. They're not never gonna allow this. But that don't mean we just keep allowing them to do whatever. We have to challenge some things. Some things have to be challenged. And this might just be a stepping stone that we can challenge the state to not only change this, but more things in the state. So thank you, that's all I have to say.
All right.
Hi, Nick Vassell, 6th District. Sorry to say, maybe I'm not sorry to say, but I think smoking should be banned, period. I don't think we should be, if you have medical marijuana, sure, people are in pain, but what else does cigarette or marijuana smoking cause? It causes emphysema, causes cancers. Come on, people, wake up. You know, we're just passing laws so we can make more money. That's all it is. Let's be a little bit more righteous about this and reduce it to what's really needed. You know, we've got too many laws, correct? We do, but doggone it, you know, I don't believe in recreational marijuana or smoking, period. Thank you.
Seeing no one else, public portion now closed. Any further discussion?
I'd just like to address two things that came up during that. I won't prolong too much more, but one thing about the court system, it is, it's no doubt that it's going to be an issue for Judge Monroe to figure out how to handle it. However, because it's a ticket issue instead of coming before her directly, for example, if the person who was pulled over gets a ticket for marijuana and they have to sign, like we all have to sign the tickets when we get tickets, then at that point they could sign accepting the penalty, knowing that they have to pay, would never have to go in front of the judge. And I think that the best point that I can continue to make to everybody here is that all laws at some point have to be challenged to be changed. And I don't know, you know, I don't want to compare marijuana to the civil rights movement, but at some point, you know, we couldn't sit at the front of the bus, or we had to fight against Jim Crow laws, or all those things were illegal at some point. And somebody said, well, you know, they said we can't do anything about it, so we can't do anything about it. But a couple people got out there and said, we can do stuff if we get together and we work together to move it forward. And so I'm just saying that, not that this is a humongous issue, but this is an issue that impacts a number of people in our community that we should take a stand for them on, even if it's not for anybody else. And again, I would just hope that even if we pass, if I have the support to pass it tonight, even if we decide not to implement it until we see if the state is going to challenge or not challenge, we could put some type of deferral on implementation and work with the police department and the chief to come up with how it would be implemented and rolled out. I think that would be great. And I understand that Porter County has adopted this policy, but I think that's probably not a public policy, because I don't know how any police officer can say, yeah, I pulled that person over and I let them go even though I know they're committing a crime. And so we're just saying take the crime in a different way, report it in a different way, and have the person who committed the crime handle it in a different way. I think that's it.
Well, I'll just say I think we would definitely be sued right off the bat for it. It'd be treated just as quick as if we did the Welcome City ordinance there. But the only good thing about that, we had someone ready to defend that, and I don't think no one is lining up to defend the marijuana ordinance.
Well, actually, there are a lot of organizations that are coming into cities. As a matter of fact, when they did it in Jacksonville, a part of NBC Leo came together to create the defense to be able to fight against the state to be able to do it. So there are organizations that are moving towards or trying to get the country to move towards this. And I'll just give one more example. Yes, it is illegal federally to have marijuana, just like it's illegal in the state. However, the state of Colorado has been full recreationally legal now for a number of years, along with 8 other states where it is completely recreational, not just for medical purposes. And one of the biggest problems that they're running into right now is that because banks are federally licensed, banks won't accept marijuana money. However, that has not stopped the states from legalizing marijuana, even though it's still illegal federally. So it's so much. If you think about gay marriage and how certain states, how they had to roll out state by state, sometimes that's just how it happens. Most states have made it legal recreationally by putting it on the ballot and not having the state legislature do it, because state legislatures tend to be so concerned about state legislators seem to be so concerned about getting reelected that they don't want to jump out there and do it. So most states have put it on the ballot and had it actually voted on during some other election, and that's how it's gotten passed. I think only 1 out of the 9 has actually passed through the state legislature. So it's a complex issue, and you know, I'm always ready to take a chance, especially if it helps people, especially people in my community.
Okay. Well, is Councilwoman Rogers? Yes.
I would just like to say that I was at that conference with the Councilwoman Hatcher. If it hits the floor, I plan on voting for it, but just in case it doesn't pass, I would hope that you would continue with this, and that maybe once you get downstate, there could be a study committee, some type of committee that could be put together to look at the entire state. And I'm just hoping you don't give up, regardless of what happens here tonight, because I certainly plan to vote for it.
Well, we have the power to make the change. So if we want to see change happen, we can start right here.
Well, let me just say, with the conditions that our city is in financially, and we're trying to establish a better relationship with downstate, I don't see this being an issue that we need to tackle at this time here when we are in financial turmoil, when we are calling the legislators up here to see our vision on our city, to help us finance our vision in our city. So with us trying to get people on board, I don't see the relationship at this time to do it with the new information that have come out from Corporation Counsel, our own legal advisor here, and even with the police chief letting us know that the police department is governed by the state statute. So I will not be supporting it because of those reasons there. To sit back and say to our police department not to enforce this when we have quite a number of other departments coming in to help us secure this city, and that they will not be enforcing the same thing that our department's enforcing. And we do not see those numbers dropping with the extra security that we continue to ask for to come in and help to make our city safe, because the numbers are so much down, and that we do have a crime issue inside the city here. So there's no other discussion. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
No.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
No.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
No.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Abstain.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
No.
Mr. President, vote is 4 yes, 4 noes, and 1 abstention.
With 4 yes, 4 noes, the motion fails for lack of majority.
Mr. President, is pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final reading.
Let me just say, even with the ordinance failing, and we all concur with the spirit of the ordinance, I would entertain if a resolution would come back and we would have the county council and have the surrounding communities to go on with it. I will entertain it, and I will support a resolution to take it to the next level with Councilwoman Hatcher leaving, going downstate, and that we will support it inside of a resolution, but not putting the city council or the city in way of another lawsuit. Okay. Council pending ordinance and resolution on second reading.
CPL 2018-36, an ordinance approving the building corporation determining need, authorizing execution of lease, authorizing the sale of certain real estate, and approving the issuance of bond and related matters. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, I move the passage of CPO 2018-36 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, September 12th. Public hearing on September 18th.
Second.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0. CPO 2018-36 is moved to the Finance Committee September 12th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing September 18th at 6 p.m.
CPO 2.
Did I mess up on the time? Is it 5:30 or 5? I thought I heard 5:30.
You said 5.
Wednesday, September 12th.
Wednesday, September 12th? Yes. At 5:30? Yes. Okay. Okay, it's 5:30. Sure we all on the same page? Thought I heard something. Okay. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
CPO 2018-37, additional appropriation ordinance sponsored by Mayor Karen Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller.
Mr. President, I move the passage of CPO 2018-37, second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, September 12th. and a public hearing on September 18th.
Second.
Been moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-37 is moving to the Finance Committee September the 12th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing September the 18th at 6 p.m.
CPL 2018-38, an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying expenses of the Gary Public Transportation Corporation of the City of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, and ending December 31st, 2019, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fixing a time the same shall take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller, Darrell Lampkin, Executive Director, Gary Public Transportation.
Mr. President, I move the passage of CPO 2018-38 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, September 12th. Public hearing on September 18th.
Second.
Moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-38 is moving to the Finance Committee September 12th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing September 18th at 6 p.m.
CPL 2018-39, an ordinance approving salaries and operating budgets for the City of Gary's Community Development Block Grant Program, Program Year 2018, Emergency Solutions Grant Program, Program Year 2018, Home Program, Program Year 2018, and approving budgets for the foreclosure and NSP programs. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller, Community Development Division, Department of Commerce.
Mr. President, I move the passage of CPO 2018-39. Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, September 12th, and a public hearing on September 18th.
Second.
Been moving properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-39 is moving to the Finance Committee September 12th at 5:30 p.m. and September the 18th, public hearing at 6 p.m.
CPL 2018-40, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana, Petition Transport Properties LLC, 563 Lake Street, Gary, Indiana, properties 1500 through 1558 Colfax, 1576 to 1594 Colfax Street, 1500 to 1595 Wheeler Street, 1500 to 1595 Stevenson Street, 1501 to 1595 Hobart Street, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-40 on second reading with the planning hearing date of September the 12th at 6:30 p.m.
Second.
Moving second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mr. President.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-40 is moved to the Planning Committee September 12th at 6:30 p.m. and a public hearing September 18th at 6 p.m.
CPL 2018-41, ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123, entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana, Petitioner Transport Properties, LLC, 563 Lake Street, Gary, Indiana, property 1500 to 1558 Colfax, 1576, 1595 Colfax, 1500 to 1595 Wheeler Street, 1500 to 1595 Stevenson Street, 1501 to 1595 Hobart Street, Gary, Indiana.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-41 on second reading of a planning committee hearing on September 12th at 6:30 p.m. and a public hearing on September 18th, 6 p.m.
Second.
Move properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
The vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-41 is moved to the Planning Committee September 12th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing September 18th at 6:30 p.m.
CPO 2018-42, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Transport Properties, LLC, 563 Lake Street, Gary, Indiana. Property unimproved Hobart Street and Stevenson Street between 15th Avenue and 17th Avenue. Unimproved 17th Avenue between Hobart and Colfax Streets. Alley 64, 65, and 66 between 15th Avenue and 17th Avenue.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-42 on second reading with a planning hearing date of September 12th at 6:30 p.m. and a public hearing September 18th at 6 p.m.
Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Caldwell. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-42 is moved to the Planning Committee September 12th at 6:30 p.m. and a public hearing September 18th at 6 p.m.
CPL 2018-43, an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying expenses of the Gary Chicago International Airport tax-based funds of the City of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2019, ending December 31st, 2019, including all outstanding claims and obligations and fixing a time the same should take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller, Dwayne Hayden, Gary Chicago Airport Director.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-43 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting on Wednesday, September 12th, 5:30, and a public hearing on September 18th.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Caldwell. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-43 is moved to the Finance Committee September the 12th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing September 18th at 6 p.m.
CPL 2018-44, an ordinance approving salaries for employees of the City of Gary, Chicago International Airport Authority for the calendar year 2019. Sponsored by Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson, City of Gary, Angela Hayes, City Controller Dwayne Hayden, Gary Chicago International Airport.
Mr. President, I move for passage of CPO 2018-44 on second reading. Finance Committee meeting Wednesday, September 12th, and public hearing on September 18th.
Second.
Move properly second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-44 is moving to the Finance Committee September the 12th at 5:30 p.m. and a public hearing September 18th at 6 p.m.
Mr. President, there's pending ordinance and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you. At this time, we will have
Mr. President. I need to correct the date on CPO. CPO 2018-34. I put it on the 11th. I want to move it to the 12th at 6:30 with the rest of the plan. So I need to make a motion to do that.
Okay. Yes, you make a motion, yeah.
Okay. Okay, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to move the planning hearing date for CPO. We'll move it again. 2018-34 from September 11th at 5:30 to September 12th at 6:30.
All right. Roll call, Madam Clerk, on the motion.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hatcher?
Yes.
Councilman Proko?
Yes.
Councilwoman Rogers?
Yes.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sparks Wade?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wyatt?
Yes.
And President Brewer.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
The vote of 9-0, CPO 2018-34. The motion is to move the time and the date from September 11th to September 12th, from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. September 12th. At this time, we will have a report from the mayor at this time.
Again, good evening, Mr. President, members of the public. I also want to not only add my condolences to the Bonner family and to your own family, Mr. President, but just to thank you for the opportunity to celebrate your grandfather on Saturday. I talked about the fact that I had met him when he was running the car wash on 11th Avenue. And the variety of businesses that he had just showed how much of a people person he was and how that has translated to you. So I just want to, Mr. Bonner was a member of Israel Church before joining Christ United, or Marquette United Methodist, and was very active member then. Also the brother of Daisy Parnell. So my condolences to that family as well. And of course, there were two nationally noted funerals over the last week. That of Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, and that of Senator John McCain, two who had done a great deal for our country. I know that everyone enjoyed that extra day off over the course of the last 3 days, and there was a lot going on in the city. We had the Festival of the Oaks in Black Oak. On Saturday, there was a 3-on-3 tournament and a barbecue at Seaburger Park, and on Sunday there was a worship service. I had a chance to attend both, only at Seaburger Park briefly, but was at the worship service. And the thing that was notable was that the community of volunteers that came out to refurbish the basketball court at Seaburger Park, it was beautiful, and it just, there were 3 faith communities that came together, and it was very, very noteworthy. So I just want to thank the entire community of Black Oak for coming out, and the Calvary Assembly, the Beacon Light Church, and there was one more church, and I knew I was going to forget it, but there were 3 faith communities. You know who you were, and and I just want to say thank you. We also celebrated the 100th year of the Turner family in the city of Gary. Christopher Harris hosted it along with all of the local Turner members, but it was a tremendous testament to the history of the Turner family in this community. There was also a group of DJs that held a festival or a beach party at the beach on Sunday afternoon. It was hosted by Markel Watkins, who is here tonight, and it was just a great way to end the summer. It was a great time. People were there into the night. I stopped briefly, but you know, the DJs were great and the fellowship was great, and it just shows you what a jewel our beach and lakefront is. There was also a, I think, did I get everything? There were other events over the course of the weekend. Two notable, Councilwoman Sparks Wade mentioned, congratulations are in order to Pastor Marlon Mack and Sora Shantae Bellew. Want to lend my congratulations to them as well as link Leslie and firefighter Aubrey Moore, who were married that same day. Needless to say, I was on roller skates. And by Sunday, after church, I had pretty much run out of steam. But it was a great weekend. I also simply wanted to invite people to tune in tomorrow and invite those members of the council who would like to attend. There will be a Facebook Live Town Hall meeting. We will be broadcasting from the Gary Room, and it is simply about the city's finances, but we will provide details and answer questions relative to account 224. We are continuing to provide as much information as possible about the sale-leaseback. I know there's a lot of confusion relative to, you know, is that going to cause us to lose the public safety building? And of course, the short answer is no, but I want to provide additional information simply about the city's financial status. And I'm sorry, it will be a live town hall meeting along with a Facebook Live broadcast, and that will be from Art House, a social kitchen. It will begin at 6:30 tomorrow. So forgive that mistake. Originally, it was separated as two events. It has been combined as one to maximize attendance and to allow as many people to participate in whatever mode they choose as possible. On August 29th, we swore in 13 new firefighters, and that was a huge opportunity. I also wanted to note that one of the new firefighters is a woman. And, you know, she went through the same requirements as all of the other firefighters. You don't see it every day, so I just wanted to say congratulations to all of the firefighters, the new firefighters that are currently in trainee status with the Gary Fire Department. There will be new police officers who will also be added to the force. We are waiting to get spots in the training classes. There's one in Plainfield, there's also one at the IUN Academy, but they both filled up pretty quickly, so we want to make sure that we have those slots available because the fire department trains in-house. The police department, while they provide training in-house, the bulk of their training comes from the academy. I want to thank the Indiana National Guard. Their demolition will resume this week. I don't know if you've been over in the 1900 block of Delaware Street. We had an opportunity to do a walk through that entire area with all of our city team, at least the department heads, to talk about some of the blight and to develop a plan of action along with Councilwoman Carolyn Rogers and the Block Club President, Ty Atkins. But the thing that was notable on 19th and Delaware was the progress that the National Guard has made in clearing homes in that area. And, you know, I just have to say, over the last few days, I've just been stopping wherever I can to rumble through or rustle through the garbage to find identifying information. I've seen things from Crestwood, Illinois. I've seen things from other parts of Lake County, but I've also seen things from Gary. When we were on Delaware Street that day, we looked at a pile of garbage, and people had dropped the garbage across the street from their house. Now, who does that? I just, you know, it just baffles me. And, you know, code enforcement and police officers and all of us can work until times get better. But until people take pride in their own, where they live, then, you know, citations are useless. They are simply useless. The Railcats made the playoffs.
Right.
And so the first two games are away. They're in St. Paul, Minnesota. But Friday, they will be coming home. And we would encourage everyone to come out and cheer the Railcats. They are on their way. And the way that they get there faster is if the fans cheer for them. So I would just encourage you to do that. Just want to remind you that the beach is officially closed. Notwithstanding that, we know that we will have good days. You know, people don't stop swimming with the holiday. But I just want to encourage people to be as safe as possible. We are still talking to the vendor about the buoys. I talked to him personally today, and he indicates that he is still going to put them back out. I think it's still important because the weather is still nice out, and we know that even though there are no lifeguards, there are no parking at the beach, that there will be people who will access the beach. And it is something that is a grave area of concern. So we're just trying to encourage people to be careful, be careful, be careful. We will have the final paving list to the council this week. We are trying to finalize our plans, and part of it will be contingent upon our ability to pay back or to replenish, no, to pay back that $1.2 million that was borrowed from the wheel tax fund. So I want to give that caveat. We know that we will pave Clay Street and Grant because there are funds that are available as a part of the matching funds. The question is, what are the additional areas that we will be able to fund, and we will keep you posted on that. The city's 911 observance will take place on September 11th on the front steps of City Hall at 10 a.m. We will also have the Blight Buster on September 8th, and we are looking for volunteers to work with us. We will be working in at least 4 neighborhoods that day, and so the more people, the further we can spread out. We are currently working in the 5x5x5 in the 1st District in Adna to Idaho from 9th to 12th Avenue. I was out looking at the east side of Etna today, and while we are focusing on closer to the west side and Blightbuster, I think there are additional areas that need to be addressed. I was on Benton Street in the in between 10th and 11th today, and that is a grave area of concern. So we will continue to focus on the 5 by 5 by 5, but there are some other areas in the 1st District, both in the west side of Etna and portions of Glen Ryan and the lakefront, that we will be addressing as well. That completes my report, and I will answer any questions that the council has.
Mayor, the paving that you do have outlined, when is that projected to start?
That's projected to start later this month. I can give you an exact date, though, because it's a part of the existing contract with the company, with Wash and Kelly.
Do they have a time frame how long that will take? Because we're talking later this month, it takes us close to October.
Right.
And
I'll have all of that, Mr. Chairman, prior to the council meeting.
okay. And also, you talked about the beach being closed there. Even with the weather being the way it is, and it seems like we might have a little extended summer, is there's no provision where we can even open the beach, where we have those warning signs out there? There are no lifeguards on site there. Because people are going to make their way to the beach. It is still a public beach. I know it's closed, where we're not collecting funds.
I will check with the legal department.
Okay.
The problem is, if we open the lot and we don't have any lifeguards, the implication is that we are supporting a person's decision to swim. So from a legal standpoint, I think we place ourselves in an area of potential jeopardy. And if someone gets in distress and there's nobody available, then we have a problem. And I know that lifeguards are not available because they're largely high school and summer students.
So do we have signage out letting people know on the beach that the beach is officially closed? No one should be out there?
Yes, there should be, but I will confirm that.
Okay. And is there any other questions for the mayor? Councilwoman White?
Madam Mayor, with regard to the paving, I had been told that the 1st District would get Forest, Park, and Knox. So your announcement tonight, does that mean that those will not be paved?
It does not mean that. It just means that the issue is funding. So we have a list of potential streets. The question is whether we have the dollars to do it. Even with the 1.2 that's repaid, that essentially will only do about 2 streets on our best day.
Okay. And how is the 1.2 going to be repaid to the wheel tax bond?
Well, that would be one of the contemplated uses of the sale leaseback if it passes. So that's why I said there are a lot of contingencies at work here.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman White?
Madam Mayor, what is the status of the building of the 6th District Fire Station?
The bid actually was on the Public Works agenda, so the bid should be awarded shortly, and once that bid is awarded, I think we can go forward with the groundbreaking and they can begin site preparation.
Councilman Proto?
Yes.
That's that first.
Tears went up on 4th and Jackson Street the other day. The long existing house, the 2 houses together that was torn down, and it makes it look, so I'm addressing a letter to the ownership of the Family Dollar that now that the building is down, you can see just how much upkeep they need to do to the parking lot. Sure. And the weeds that's all up against the building, so, yeah.
Well, I was one of those cheering voices, Councilman Proto, because I've been on that for a long, long time. That was hard to see it. And it does show you the value of hardship, but we have to jump through so many hoops at the state and federal level. I mean, it was one of the first addresses placed on the hardship list.
Anyone else?
Mr. President.
Councilman Smith.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Where are we at on the status of golf cart registration?
They are actively registering golf carts. Notice has been placed out. Let me get the dates because that was, come across. Angie, do you have, let me see, I think.
Madam Mayor, getting that, I've neglected to give my condolences to one other person, Deacon Green, former deacon over at the Christ Baptist Church. He was the one injured in that horrible crash on 12 and 20 there. So we want to continue to pray for the Christ Baptist family and Deacon Green, his wife, and his daughters. I went to school with his daughter, Candace Green, and his wife was a great teacher over at Nobel there, so go way back with the family there. And he always been a welcoming guy when I come to the church there, always calling, put me in my right seat and everything, but I'm definitely missed. He was in a horrible accident on 12 and 20, so let's remember to keep them in our prayers also.
I do have an answer. We are contemplating that we have a registration on September 22nd at Marquette Park and one at Gleason on September 29th. And we will finalize that and publicize it, Mr. Chairman.
One other question.
Yes.
Mr. President. Towing, RFQ, and where are we at on towing, RFQ, and contracts?
I can give you that answer. I don't have it in front of me, but I know that progress is being made. Also, you raised something. Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, rather, it seems to me that there are some policy modifications that we can do both along the lines of the daycare centers and the marijuana arrests that can address some of the issues. It won't address the global issues, and ultimately this council has to do that. But I think that there are some policy changes that we can make in the short term that will address some of the very valid concerns and concerns that we agree with as an administration that were raised tonight. So I just wanted to add that piece.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Mayor, I spoke to Mr. Joseph Jones, and he asked me to let you know how very, very appreciative he and his family were for you to stop by and look at concerns, quite frankly, that I had been trying to help him with for a very, very long time. In addition to the Binky building, he was very appreciative. I'm very appreciative. And he just wanted me to let you know that he, in fact, was going to try to come down here to say thank you to both of us. And I told him that wasn't necessary, that we both understand how appreciative that, that he is to be able to talk to you, for you to come out and look at things in his community. And so he just wanted me to let you know that he sincerely appreciate you coming by and talking with him, listening to him, and helping him to solve his problem in the community.
You know, and I forgot we were out there yesterday, and when I talked to Mr. Jones, of course, it was raining hard, and then it eased up, and it's something that has been going on in his alley for way too long. We re-televised that line, and we are actually going to have an engineer go and figure out what it takes to fix it. And when I was out there, I did see that building. I saw it from the rear. So when you see it from the street, it looks different.
Right.
But if you go in the alley, it looks really bad. And I'm trying to determine whether it's something that we can handle on hardest hit. It depends on how many units. If they're not more than 4, then we should be able to add that to the hardest hit list. But, you know, sometimes we have to be very careful, and I said this to our team when we were traveling on Friday, especially when we have seniors, explaining what is happening and what we're doing. You know, we may have in our head, okay, we're gonna fix this, we're gonna do these things, but sometimes all you have to do is tell people that, you know, and maintain communication. And you know, I think that that is so important. We had a similar issue that we're dealing with right now on the 700 block of Ralston Street. Councilman Proto were out in the alley, and I were out in the alley about a week ago. And, you know, I got to run around, and I was calling for the person because it wasn't us. It was the warranty company that they had gotten through NIPSCO. But, you know, it's like people talk and they talk fast and, you know, basically they're just trying to move it from their desk. And that's just not acceptable if the city does it, and it's certainly not acceptable if someone else does it. So thank you for raising that.
No other questions? We have a few speakers for tonight. Our public portion. Bill, you're our first speaker. Jim, you're next. And then Ms. Johnson. And then Ms. Love, you be our last. Nope. You be after Bill, Ms. Johnson.
Good evening. You know, when I listen to some of your comments, when somebody tells me they support a spirit of something, and they don't have the intestinal fortitude or the integrity or the moral ability to vote for it, they're telling me they're a hypocrite. They're telling me a hypocrite. Now, millions of dollars have went through this city that was supposed to go through your city council, millions of dollars. Yet, you don't get upset about that. And then the mayor's backtracking, trying to cover in her behind, say, we're going to have these meetings about it, and it was well spent and everything. You got lawsuits by this ex-deputy controller against the city that she filed. One mayor fired on May 29th. This is not the end, nor is it the end with the state. You don't get upset about stuff like that. But here you have a chance to stand up for the black youth of America that's being genocided out, and you're over there hemming and hawing. Isn't the word integrity mean anything? I wonder what happened if Rosa Parks said, "Golly, I might get arrested, I can't do that." What do you think would have happened? What if Martin Luther King in 1963 was sitting in that Birmingham jail and they wouldn't give him bail, and he said, "I'll sit here till I die"? All right, what would happen if he'd say, "Please don't lock me up, sir, I'll do whatever you want me to, I always sit in the hot jail"? Anyway, that's you, and this is the history of how far we've fallen. See, Gary's a good lesson in how far our integrity has fallen, you know, and it's really sad. And, you know, that's why Mitch Daniels, in this broadcaster speaker's opinion, said Gary's entitled to the same crummy, rotten, negligent, corrupt government it's ever had because the people want it that way. And, you know, you have to look at yourself, the woman and man in the mirror, even though they look at you backwards. It's not all about money, folks. It's about doing the right thing for the right reason. Money is going to come and go. Everybody funeralizes each other at these meetings. Sometime honestly, I'm at the Junior Student Council at Horace Mann in 1962, where we're talking about school activities. You know, I really think we are, but when we have hardcore issues that can affect the future of the human race and mankind, in a black city, we can't even get an ordinance through like this, African-American city. How do you think people look at us all over the country? Then we put ads in the New York Times, Amazon, come down here. Respects begin at home. You got to stand for something or you fall for anything. And the city council is a good place to start for it. You worry about lawsuits. How about the other times the city's got sued over the police abusing people and you've had to pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars in out-of-court settlements? You're going to be paying judgments out as long as there's going to be a city or a state. And the second thing is Colorado told the federal government, go deep six it. They're going to manufacture marijuana, they're going to sell it, and they're going to collect taxes on it. And they said, challenge me, U.S. Attorney General, to do anything about it. We're doing it all over the country, but here we haven't even got to the point of even challenging something as simple as a ticket for possession.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the council. My name is Jim Nowacki. I live in the 2nd District, and I really appreciate the efforts of Councilwoman Hatcher attempting to put the City Council on the right side of an issue and on the right side of history. She made a comparison in her comments, making a comparison to the issues regarding legalizing, decriminalizing marijuana in our city and the civil rights movement. I was reminded of that movie Selma, which represented the march from Selma, Alabama to Montgomery, and during the first march, the marchers were beaten senselessly by the jackbooted state police in Alabama, and in the second efforts at the same Edmund Pettus Bridge, their second march, they saw the road lined with more jackbooted state police, and Nobel laureate Reverend Dr. King reflected and prayed and decided at that moment they were in court on the issue that he would turn back on the second time. And just like efforts in the past, on the third, with the protection of the federal government, the marchers were able to complete their very reasonable march along the side of the road from Selma to Montgomery, a very historic part of U.S. history. And I think the point would be that while the council did not vote on this ordinance to pass this ordinance, the council will have a chance in the future to, I think we've heard some comments from the administration and from other members that there will be another chance, joined with the county, to pass a resolution, but not to give up on the fight, because I believe that recreational use of marijuana, matter of fact, the use of marijuana and the prohibition and the criminalization of it is unconstitutional when you take the full breadth of the history of mankind. Thank you.
Let me just chime in real quick, because I haven't sat here as long as I can sit here and take this. We're not going to use marijuana and talk about the rights and what our ancestors went through to get us to this point here and trying to compare the two. They're totally different. And I feel very offended sitting here when you sit here and try to put us all in one box and make it seem like every black person is on marijuana, smoking marijuana, and that's not the truth. But to try and compare what we went through on Selma and compare what we went through back in the day to marijuana is disgraceful. And I don't see the comparison in it. And I will not sit here and continue to listen to that. Ms. Johnson, I'm sorry.
Good evening to the council, those in the chambers, and those joining us by way of the media. My name is Kendra S. Johnson, 4th District. My condolences to you, Councilman Brewer, on your loss, and to everyone else who has lost loved ones and people close to them this month. I have been some of everywhere this week. I wanted to give congratulations to the committee to honor the Jacksons on their celebration of the 60th anniversary of his birth. The block gathering was fine. That was on the 25th. We saw so many people coming just to look at the house. John Allen of Foodies was having a food festival up on 25th, which was very successful, and the food was delicious. The celebration on the 29th at the Jackson House with all of those Michael Jackson impersonators. There were so many people there from Germany, from Asia, we did a roll call. And thanks to the police department for the security they provided. And, the food trucks that came, it was really, really a very nice, fantastic celebration put together by a small grassroots group that wants to honor what the contributions of the entire Jackson family in terms of music. I give honor and glory to God Almighty for the strength today, because I've been to 3 meetings today. I was at the NERC Transportation Surface Committee meeting today out in Portage. Thankfully, someone was kind enough to give me a ride there and back. I was invited to sit with the Kiwanis. And then I was at the legislative meeting with the Gary Community School Corporation, and now I'm here with all of you. But when you say you want to be a citizen's advocate and a community crusader, there is a price to pay. But I love paying it because I love my city and I love the people of Gary, Indiana, and I love how they love to show love and their interest in knowing what's going on. And I also visited the Entrepreneur Expo that was held at the Art House on the 29th. Like I said, I was bouncing something everywhere. Lastly, thank you to Holy Angels. I went there to their food market and I picked up 2 tricolor bell peppers. And I had fun dicing them and separating them. And last but not least, the class reunions are not over. Here comes the rest this month. Thank you and have a good night.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Dave, give me 1 minute. I got 2 in front of you. Okay. Ms. Love? Ms. Love?
Mr. President, I need to just,
okay.
I must.
No, Ms. Love?
Mr. President, excuse me.
Ms. Love.
I'm sure that my statement's coming from.
You can do your statement, but you won't do it now.
You absolutely
You won't do it now.
insulted me.
You won't do it now.
By saying what you just said.
You won't do it now.
And
Ms.
I don't
Love.
care what you think.
Ms. Love.
When
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead, Ms. Love.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I really appreciate this opportunity, but I had nothing
You are out
further
of order,
to
Ms.
say.
Hatchett. You are out of order.
Racism is
You are
real
out of
for
order.
every black person in this city when they have to deal with police
Ms. Hatchett, you are out of order. You are out of order. Well, you deal with it then. You deal with it then. Ms. Love, you have the floor, Miss. You have the floor. I'll be so glad when you leave. Ms. Love, take the podium.
That was so uncalled for.
No, you asked for it. You got it.
No.
Miss Love, you have the floor. You're so disrespectful. Sit down, Ms. Hatchett. Sit down.
Mr. President,
You review the tape and see who's being disrespectful. Sit down, Ms. Hatchett.
institutional racism
Sit down, Ms.
right here in
Hatchett.
the city of Gary, Indiana.
Miss Love, go right ahead.
Recognize it
Please
so you
excuse
can
Ms. Hatchett rudeness.
community.
Please excuse her rudeness, Ms. Love. Please go ahead.
It's quite all right, actually. I really didn't have anything further to add, but I thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Nicholas Vasso, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Mr. President, council members. Mr. President, I'm sorry for your loss for your grandfather, and may he rest in peace. What I want to talk about today is a touchy issue for everybody, whichever way you want to go, and I respect both sides, but I want to talk about the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. I think it should be revoked and abolished. Gun control does not work. It's guns out of control. That's the problem. And we got too many killings, too many homicides, accidents happening, too many murders. What's going on in this country? What's going on? We've got mental illness problems. We've got accidents. We've got anger leading to rage. panics, thinking our lives are in danger, self-defense. What's happening to our society when we have to have guns be the weapons of mass destruction in our country? I'm so shameful that that Second Amendment is still in existence. It should be revoked and abolished. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Castellanos.
Thank you, and good evening. I'm David Castellanos from the 1st District. First of all, I want to say I wish to compliment each one of you for the quality of the work that you're doing. I mean, you have a lot on your plate, and I'm really impressed to see the work that you're doing tonight. But the reason why I'm here tonight is because I'm a member of the Little Calumet River Basin Authority, and what I'd like to do is to say that our meetings are on the second Wednesday of every month, and it's held in Munster, 1005 Ridge Road at the Munster Government Complex. We may have our meeting in October here on the second Wednesday, so we're looking forward to that. But I'm hoping that Gary residents would come on out and voice their concerns and what information that they have, because right now, the Little Calumet River, what we do is that we basically lease the land. We take care of the flood zone, but we lease the land all the way from state line all the way to Martin Luther King. That's the property that we take care of. And right now, the Little Calumet River and that whole area is a mecca. We have farmers there, we have advertisers there. I mean, but the city of Gary in itself is really a mecca, and we're looking forward to seeing new development. And we're looking forward to working with the city of Gary on any economic development properties that they have. Because right now, the way we see it is that the city of Gary is like they're on the threshold of doing something great, and we want to also be a part of it. So that's the reason why I'm here, and I'm looking forward to working with all of you, and I think you're all doing a great job, and this has really been a fantastic meeting tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the last speaker of the night, and let me just say, we sit here from time to time as council members, and I have never seen no disrespect that I have interpreted being the president of this council. Even when I sat in the chair over there, I never disrespected the chair, even when there was issues that I didn't agree with. We have to learn to work together and work together in a civilized way. To get up and grandstand and do all of this type of stuff, it will not be done here. When you get here in this seat here, you want the same respect, and by God, I will give you that respect. While I agree with your policy, the way you conduct this meeting or not, I would never disrespect anyone that sits in this chair or sit in any of those chairs in any kind of way. But there has to be respect and order inside this chamber at all times, and it will be as long as I'm the chairman. I will entertain a motion for adjournment at this time. I'll see you all at the next meeting. God bless you.